Here's the truth nobody tells you about those color-changing tints everyone's obsessed with. The adaptive pigment technology is brilliant, but if you pick the wrong base formula for your skin type, you'll still look like you're melting by lunch. I'm Sarah Ling-Miller, and I burned through about $200 and 3 solid months testing these formulas on every zone of my face before I figured out what actually works. You're listening to Luxury Beauty on a Budget podcast. Quick note before we get going. Everything you're about to hear, all the research, the testing, the recommendations, that's 100% human work, written and verified by real beauty experts. The voice you're hearing, though, that's AI generated, which lets us get you this information faster and more consistently. Just wanted to be upfront about that. If you're a regular here, thank you for making this part of your routine. I really don't take that for granted. And if you're new, I'm genuinely glad you found us. We publish new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so there's always something practical and budget-friendly coming your way. Today, we're talking about skin-responsive tints and how to actually choose one that works instead of just looking pretty in the jar. Let's jump in. You're about to learn the exact process for choosing the right skin-responsive tint in under 10 minutes. No previous experience needed. These pH-reactive formulas adjust to your unique chemistry, but only if you match the base formula to your actual skin needs first. We're talking 10 minutes to choose the right product, then 90 seconds of daily application after that. Skill level is absolute beginner, and you're looking at $8 to $35 per product that'll last you 3 to 4 months. The reactive pigment technology sounds magical, and it kind of is, but you need to understand your moisture barrier function, oil production patterns, and texture concerns before the color-adjusting chemistry even matters. If you've been dealing with foundation that oxidizes weird or looks absolutely terrible on video calls, this is going to save you time and money. Let's be real about why most of us even discovered these formulas. Traditional foundation looked cakey by 10 a.m. or separated into weird patches by lunch. The adaptive color is brilliant, but base formula compatibility is what determines whether you look naturally polished or like you're actively melting by your 2 p.m. standing meeting. Here's what you'll need to get this right. A natural lighting source, ideally near a window, not under overhead fluorescent lights that lie to you. A clean, bare face after your morning skincare routine has absorbed, so wait about 5 minutes post-moisturizer. Grab some blotting paper or tissue to test oil production, a small mirror for close-up texture inspection, and your current moisturizer so you can check ingredient compatibility. You'll also want a notebook or your phone to track results across 3 to 4 hour wear tests. Budget around $25 to $35 for initial testing, which gets you one full-size product. Optional but helpful, makeup removing wipes for immediate comparison tests. Now, let's talk about identifying your actual oil production pattern, not what you think it is. Most of us are completely wrong about our skin type. I thought I had oily skin for 8 years until I realized my moisture barrier was destroyed and my skin was just overcompensating. Here's how to assess this properly. Do the 3-hour bare face test. Clean your face at 6 a.m., apply a basic moisturizer with no SPF yet, and don't touch your face. At 9 a.m., press a clean blotting paper to 5 zones: forehead, nose, both cheeks, and chin. Hold each section for 2 seconds. Decoding your results goes like this. If all 5 zones show translucent oil spots within those 3 hours, you're oily. You need silica or dimethicone-based tints with oil control polymers. If there's 0 translucency on any zone, you're dry. You need glycerin or hyaluronic acid-enriched bases, typically with 3 to 5% humectant concentration. Combination skin shows up as oil in your T-zone, so forehead and nose, while your cheeks stay matte. This is the trickiest situation for choosing the right tint, because you'll need hybrid formulas with zone-specific application techniques. Normal skin shows a slight sheen everywhere, but no actual oil transfer, and honestly, you're the lucky demographic where most formulas just work. Between depositions last spring, I tested this on 3 different days because my oil production changed dramatically with my cycle. Track this for at least 1 week if you're between ages 35 and 50. Hormonal fluctuations matter way more than the beauty industry admits. Here's the price per use reality check. A $22 tint lasting 4 months with proper oil type matching comes out to 18 cents per application. A $45 luxury foundation you hate after 2 weeks works out to $22.50 per wear if you force yourself to use it up. Moving on to texture and pore assessment. Skin-responsive tints adapt to color, not texture. The base formula has to physically address your surface concerns, or you'll just have a perfectly color-matched product sitting on top of problems. In natural window light, not your bathroom's line lighting, look at your cheek and nose area from about 4 inches away. Be honest with yourself here. If you've got smooth, minimal texture, any tint formula works. Focus your selection on longevity and oil control. Look for dimethicone concentrations around 2 to 4% for that second skin finish I absolutely live for during client meetings. For visible pores, especially in your T-zone, you need blurring microspheres. That's typically silica, nylon 12, or polymethylsilsaquoxane listed in the first 7 ingredients. The Flower Beauty Light Illusion costs around $10.98 at most drugstores. It's manufactured in the same facility as some $50 plus prestige brands, and it contains 3% blurring silica complex. I keep one in my car for emergency applications. If you've got textured or acne-scarred skin, skip anything with heavy dimethicone above 5% because it can emphasize texture in certain lighting. Instead, look for light-diffusing titanium dioxide or mica in the 1 to 2% range. The Honest Beauty Everything Tinted Moisturizer costs around $26, uses both of those ingredients, and actually photographs well on Zoom. I tested this extensively during arbitration hearings, conducted entirely on video. For dry patches or flaking, this is where most people mess up. Any tint will cling to dry patches. You need 2 to 3 weeks of serious barrier repair before these formulas work. Consider pushing pause and checking out the article on how to repair a damaged skin barrier before spending money on tints that'll just emphasize the problem. The link's below. The ingredient lists really matter here. A $12 tint with proper blurring agents outperforms a $40 tint without them, regardless of how well the color adapts. Next up, matching pH-reactive pigment concentration to your coverage needs. Here's what the marketing doesn't tell you. pH-reactive pigments, usually iron oxide derivatives that shift with your skin's natural 4.5 to 6.5 pH range, come in different concentrations. Higher concentration means more dramatic color shift and more coverage. Lower concentration means subtle adaptation and a sheerer finish. For I need to look alive during morning meetings coverage, you want 0.5 to 1% reactive pigment concentration. These adapt just enough to even out redness without looking like makeup. The Say Slip tint costs around $34, admittedly at the top of the budget range, but it lasts 5+ months. Per use cost works out to $0.21 if you use it 5 times weekly for 5 months. For I need to hide hormonal acne and look professional coverage, you want 2 to 3% reactive pigment concentration. The color adaptation is more noticeable. You'll shift about 1 full shade as it reacts with your pH over 60 to 90 seconds. The CoverGirl Skin Milk costs around $10.47 and is manufactured at the same Coty facility that produces Tom Ford formulations, so it delivers this effectively. If you're needing full face coverage but want it to look natural, you're actually looking at layering strategies. A single skin-responsive tint won't achieve this. You need a base tint with 1 to 2% reactive pigment, plus a specific application technique for spot concealing. There's a link below to the article on how to apply skin-responsive tint. The pH reaction happens within 60 to 90 seconds of application. If you're not seeing color adjustment in that window, either the formula is too low concentration for your needs, or, more likely, you've got too much silicone primer or sunscreen interfering with the reaction. I learned this the hard way before a settlement conference. My SPF 50 was creating a barrier that prevented the tint from reading my skin's pH properly. If you're testing this in store, most drugstores won't let you return open cosmetics, so swatch on your jawline, wait 90 seconds, and check the color shift before purchasing. If there's zero change, that formula's reactive pigment concentration is too low for medium to full coverage needs.
Now we need to talk about checking your skincare ingredient compatibility. This step saves you from the "why does this separate after an hour" disaster I experienced approximately 7 times in 2024. Certain active ingredients in your morning skincare will destroy the performance of skin-responsive tints. High percentage silicones in your moisturizer or sunscreen, anything above 5% dimethicone, cyclomethicone, or dimethiconol, creates a slip layer that prevents the tint from properly adhering. Your color match will be perfect, but the formula slides around your face by 11 a.m. Check your moisturizer label. If any silicone appears in the first 5 ingredients, wait 10 full minutes after application before applying your tint. I now set a phone timer because waiting a few minutes while making breakfast means I forget and rush out the door. Vitamin C serums, specifically L-ascorbic acid, cause problems too. The low pH required to keep L-ascorbic acid stable, typically 2.5 to 3.5, can overactivate pH-reactive pigments, leading to darker than appropriate color shifts. I use my vitamin C at night now because the oxidation issue with tints was making me look orange by afternoon. If you're committed to morning vitamin C, apply your tint 15 plus minutes afterward and check the color development carefully. Freshly applied BHA or AHA acids have similar pH interference issues as vitamin C. Most of us using bioregenerative actives or acids should apply these at night anyway for stability reasons. If you're doing morning acid application, you're choosing between optimal acid efficacy and optimal tint performance. Pick one. Heavy oils like rosehip, marula, or squalane applied immediately before tint application will prevent even wear. The tint literally can't grab onto an oil-slicked surface. If you use facial oils, apply them at night or as the very last step after your tint has set for 2 to 3 minutes. The compatibility formula I use goes like this. Lightweight barrier repair serum, wait 3 minutes. SPF 30 to 50, wait 5 minutes, longer if it's silicone heavy. Then skin responsive tint. Total active skincare time is 8 minutes. Total waiting time gets built into my existing routine while I pack lunches and answer emails. For detailed information on how ingredients interact with color cosmetics, the Cosmetic Ingredient Review Database publishes peer-reviewed safety and compatibility data, though I'll warn you it's dense reading at 6 a.m. Let's talk about testing the formula's longevity against your actual schedule. You need to know if this tint survives your real life. Not ideal conditions real life, actual coffee spills, face touching during stressful calls, and the weird indoor-outdoor temperature shifts that happen in most office buildings. Here's the 4-hour field test before committing to full size. Apply the tint at 7 a.m. or whenever you typically start your day. Document with a selfie in natural light. Then live your actual morning, coffee, commute, computer work, whatever your routine involves. At 11 a.m., assess these things. Oil breakthrough. Has your T-zone gone shiny? Slight sheen is normal. Actual oil that transfers to your fingers means the oil control isn't working. For oily skin types, this is the deal-breaker data point. Separation or patchiness. Does it look the same on all zones, or has it worn off your nose and forehead while staying heavy on your cheeks? Separation usually indicates an incompatible base formula for your oil production pattern. You either need more oil control polymers or more emollients, depending on where it failed. Color oxidation. This is rare with quality pH reactive formulas, but can happen with cheaper iron oxide derivatives. If you've shifted orange or gray, that formula's pigment technology isn't stable enough. Return it. Texture emphasis. If your pores look more visible at 11 a.m. than they did at 7 a.m., the formula is settling into lines. You need better blurring technology or a different application method. I dampen my beauty sponge more than usual for textured days. I've done this test in my car in the courthouse parking lot more times than I can count. The lighting is brutal, but honest. If it looks good there, it'll look good anywhere. Real-world longevity expectations go like this. Even the best skin-responsive tint requires a midday blotting if you're oily complected. Anyone promising 12-hour no-touch wear is selling fantasy. What you want is 6 to 8 hours of still looks intentional wear before you need to blot and reapply. That's the realistic benchmark. Now, calculating the actual costs per wear based on required touch-ups. Let's be real about the math, because the sticker price means nothing without usage context. Most skin-responsive tints come in 1 to 1.4 ounce bottles. The marketing claims 60 to 90 applications assume you're using a pea-sized amount. That works for sheer coverage on small faces. For the rest of us needing medium coverage across the full face, here's reality. For sheer or light coverage needs, a nickel-sized amount gives you approximately 75 to 80 applications from a 1 ounce bottle. At $20 per bottle, that's 25 cents per application. Medium coverage needs require a quarter-sized amount, which is approximately 40 to 45 applications from a 1 ounce bottle. At $20 per bottle, that's 44 cents per application. Medium coverage plus midday touch-up means you're using 1.5 to 2 times the standard amount daily. That's 25 to 30 full-face applications per bottle. At $20 per bottle, you're looking at 67 to 80 cents per day. Here's the comparison that changed my entire approach. I was spending $52 on Glossier Perfecting Skin Tint, 1 ounce, and getting roughly 30 applications with my coverage needs. That's $1.73 per wear. I switched to Catrice Fresh It Up Hydrating Glow Tint, $8.99 for 1 ounce, manufactured in Germany with comparable ingredient quality, and I get 35 applications. That's 26 cents per wear. That's $7.47 saved weekly, $388.44 saved annually. That's a full professional facial quarterly, or 3 new barrier repair creams to actually improve my skin instead of just covering it. Touch-up requirements by skin type break down like this. Oily skin should plan for 1 midday blot and reapply, so 1.5 times product usage. Dry skin usually gets single application throughout the day, but may need hydrating mist. Combination skin needs T-zone blotting without full reapplication if you set with powder strategically. Factor touch-up reality into your per-use calculation. A $10 tint requiring 2 full applications daily costs more per wear than a $25 tint that genuinely lasts 8 hours. Next, assessing the finish type against your environment and skin goals. The finish determines whether you look naturally polished or like you're trying too hard, and it's entirely environment dependent. What works for Zoom calls looks completely different in outdoor meetings or evening events. Dewy or luminous finish contains light-reflecting pearls or mica, typically 1 to 3% concentration. These formulas give you that lit-from-within look everyone talks about, but they're absolutely unforgiving in harsh fluorescent lighting or high-definition video calls. I learned this during a Zoom deposition where I looked borderline greasy on camera, despite being appropriately dewy in person. This finish is best for dry skin types, outdoor settings, natural light environments, and after 5 p.m. events. The Honest Beauty Everything Tinted Moisturizer sits here with both luminizing pearl and SPF 20 coverage. Satin or natural finish is the Goldilocks zone, slight sheen without obvious sparkle or mattification. Most modern skin-responsive tints aim for this because it photographs reasonably well across multiple lighting conditions. The e.l.f. Halo Glow Tint costs around $14 and is manufactured in the same South Korean facility as several $40 plus K-beauty brands, delivering this consistently. Best for combination skin, most professional settings, and all-day wear where you'll transition between environments. Matte or semi-matte finish contains oil-absorbing ingredients like silica, kaolin, or rice powder, usually 3 to 7% concentration. These are increasingly rare in the skin-responsive category because true matte finishes can look flat and artificial as the reactive pigments adjust throughout the day. The color shifts beautifully, but the texture can read as mask-like by hour 6. Best for genuinely oily skin, high humidity environments, and long days where shine control is more important than natural appearance. The Maybelline Dream Fresh BB Cream costs around $8.97 and is one of the few widely available options here. Testing this pre-purchase, most stores let you swatch the back of your hand. Check how it looks in both the stores, usually terrible, lighting, and in your car, or outside the store entrance in natural light. If the finish shifts dramatically between these environments, it'll do the same on your face all day.
For more detailed breakdowns of how different finish types perform across skin types, check out the article comparing skin-responsive tint versus traditional foundation. Links below. I spent 2,000 words comparing wear patterns. Now we need to verify SPF claims and decide if you need separate sun protection. Most skin-responsive tints include SPF 15 to 30, but here's what you need to know that the packaging doesn't emphasize. You need approximately 1/4 teaspoon of product for full SPF protection on your face. That's way more than the sheer application amount that makes these tints look natural. Here's the SPF reality check. If you're applying enough tint to get the advertised SPF protection, you're wearing medium, full coverage foundation. The whole point of these formulas is sheer adaptive coverage. You cannot achieve both advertised SPF levels and natural coverage with a single application. My solution, after 6 sunburns learned the hard way, I apply proper SPF 50 sunscreen as my base layer, waiting 5 minutes for it to set, then apply my skin-responsive tint as color correction and light coverage. Yes, this adds 5 minutes and 1 extra product. Yes, it's worth it when you're staring down hyperpigmentation that takes 6 to 12 months to fade. If you insist on relying on tint SPF alone, you must apply the full 1/4 teaspoon amount, which means you're getting medium to heavy coverage. At that point, you're not really using a tint anymore. You're using a tinted sunscreen, which is fine, but be honest about what you're actually purchasing. The Australian Gold Tinted Mineral Sunscreen SPF 50 costs around $14.97 for 3 ounces at most drugstores. It's pH reactive and specifically formulated for this heavy application approach. Cost per use is $0.08 when used properly for sun protection. The American Academy of Dermatology provides detailed guidelines on proper sunscreen application amounts and reapplication schedules. It's worth reading if you're genuinely relying on your makeup for sun protection. Let me give you some pro tips and flag the common mistakes I see. The biggest mistake is choosing a skin-responsive tint based on the swatch jar color. That's not how pH-reactive pigments work. The jar shows the formula at neutral pH, not your pH. Always test on your actual skin. Application surface matters more than technique. I've tested these with fingers, brushes, sponges, and even those weird textured silicone applicators. The difference in finish is about 5% technique and 95% whether your skin is properly prepped. If your moisturizer hasn't fully absorbed, no application method will save you from patchiness. Here's the damping trick. For dry skin or textured areas, dampen your beauty sponge with thermal water or a hydrating mist before applying tint. This dilutes the formula slightly and helps it meld with dry patches. I discovered this accidentally when I knocked over my Evian spray. The application that day was the best I'd achieved in months. For layering on problem areas, you can apply a second thin layer to spots needing more coverage after the first layer has reacted, so 90 seconds. The pH-reactive pigments will continue adjusting to your skin chemistry. This works better than thick single applications that can look mask-like. The primer incompatibility that ruins everything. Silicone-heavy primers, anything with dimethicone in the first 3 ingredients, create a barrier that prevents pH-reactive pigments from reading your skin properly. You get uneven color development, darker in some zones, lighter in others, as the formula struggles to read your skin's pH through the silicone layer. Skip primer entirely, or use a water-based hydrating primer instead. Temperature affects reactive speed. In winter or air-conditioned offices, the color development takes closer to 120 seconds instead of 60 to 90. Don't panic and add more product. Just wait. I've watched this play out in real time during January morning commutes when I apply makeup in my cold car. Common mistake with combination skin is applying the same amount everywhere. Your oily T-zone needs less product than your dry cheeks. Use a dampened sponge to press product into oily areas so less is deposited, and a dry sponge for dry areas so more is deposited. This single technique change improved my midday wear time by 3+ hours. Shade matching is backwards with these formulas. You're not matching your skin tone directly. You're selecting based on whether you need the formula to warm up, if you're cool-toned, or cool down, if you're warm-toned, as it reacts. Most formulas come in 3 to 5 shades that are really undertone adjusters. If you're neutral-toned, you're lucky. Nearly any shade reacts acceptably. If you're strongly cool or warm, this matters significantly. Let's hit some frequently asked questions. Can you use skin-responsive tints if you have sensitive or acne-prone skin? Yes, but check for common irritants and comedogenic ingredients first. Most pH-reactive tints use iron oxide derivatives for color adaptation, which are generally non-sensitizing according to dermatological research. However, the base formulations often include fragrance, essential oils, or heavy emollients that can trigger reactions. Look for formulas listing non-comedogenic and avoid anything with fragrance if you're reactive. The Versed Skin Tint costs around $18.99, is fragrance-free and formulated without the typical irritants, though it has slightly lower reactive pigment concentration, so you'll get sheerer coverage. For acne-prone skin specifically, prioritize oil-free bases with niacinamide at 2 to 5% concentration, which helps regulate oil while providing light anti-inflammatory benefits. How do skin-responsive tints perform in high humidity or after exercise? Honestly, they break down faster than traditional foundations because the lightweight formulations prioritizing skin-like finishes sacrifice some longevity. In humidity above 70% or after genuine cardio, expect 3 to 4 hours maximum before you need blotting and touch-ups. The pH-reactive pigments continue adapting as you sweat, which can create uneven color as some areas break down faster than others. If you're in consistently humid climates or exercise midday, consider setting the tint with a light dusting of translucent powder, specifically on oil-prone zones. The powder doesn't interfere with the color adaptation that's already happened, but it does provide a mechanical barrier against immediate breakdown. I've tested this extensively during humid California summers. It buys you about 90 additional minutes of acceptable wear. Do you need to adjust your tint selection seasonally as your skin changes? Most people don't need completely different formulas, but you should adjust your application amount and potentially add a summer-specific option if you're very oily. Your skin's oil production can increase 20 to 30% in summer heat, and your moisture barrier needs more hydration in winter. I use the same base tint year-round, CoverGirl Skin Milk at around $10.47, but I apply it differently. Lighter application with powder setting in summer, slightly heavier application with no powder in winter. If your skin shifts dramatically between seasons, truly dry in winter, truly oily in summer, then yes, having two formulas makes sense. Budget around $20 twice annually, instead of one $40 formula you'll hate half the year. Absolutely, but order matters for proper color development. Apply your tint first. Wait the full 90 seconds for pH reaction completion, then add concealer or powder. If you apply concealer first and tint over it, the reactive pigments can't read your skin's pH accurately. You'll get color inconsistencies. For powder, use very light application, a fluffy brush, not a puff, only on areas where you need oil control. Heavy powder application can create a barrier that prevents the tint from continuing to adjust throughout the day. Yes, these formulas keep subtly reacting for 2 to 3 hours after initial application as your skin's pH fluctuates. For complete layering strategies and product order, check out the Layering Skin Responsive Tints Routine Guide, links below. I break down 5 different finish types with specific product combinations. Here's the summary. Choosing the right skin-responsive tint comes down to matching the base formula's oil control, humectant levels, and texture blurring technology to your actual skin needs before you even consider the pH-reactive color technology. Start with the 3-hour oil production test. Assess your texture honestly and calculate real cost per wear, including touch-ups and reapplications. The adaptive color pigments work brilliantly, but only on properly prepared skin with compatible skincare underneath. Give yourself 10 minutes to work through the assessment steps, budget $20 to $35 for your first formula test, and plan for a 4-hour real-world trial before committing. When you get the formula match right, you're looking at 90-second application time, 6 to 8-hour wear, and 25 to 45 cents per use for genuinely natural coverage that adjusts as your skin changes throughout the day. That's the efficient, effective coverage ratio I can actually sustain while billing hours and surviving on inadequate sleep. The formulas I've referenced range from around $8.97 to around $34, all available at drugstores or major retailers, and several are manufactured in the same facilities producing prestige brands at 3 to 4 times the price. Focus on the ingredient list and your actual skin needs, not the brand prestige or packaging, and you'll find your formula significantly faster than I did during my expensive trial and error phase of 2024. Thanks for listening to this episode of Luxury Beauty on a Budget podcast. New episodes come out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so you've always got something useful coming up. If you found this episode helpful, I'd be really grateful if you'd leave a 5-star rating and write a quick review. It sounds small, but it actually makes a huge difference in helping other people discover the show when they're searching for real beauty advice that won't wreck their budget. And definitely subscribe or follow the show so you get a notification the second a new episode goes live. I'll catch you in the next one.